Hey, everybody, welcome. It's Steve Fretzin, and this is the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. You are hopefully been listening a while. We're up at 450 plus shows, Scott. I mean, that's no joke, right?
No, congratulations, my friend. Really,
Thank
really
you.
something special.
Yeah. I'm just looking for praise and any
Well, you've come
ego
to the right.
boost as much as I can get.
You've come to the right
I
place.
have the right guest on the show this
You're
morning.
you're looking better than ever, looking
Yes, I'm
younger than ever,
handsome. Keep going,
more
and
funny, witty, all that, just
and that's our show, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on the Be That the Be That Lawyer show. Oh man, Scott, I'm just so happy. We got to meet last week in person. You were in Chicago, and I was just so happy to share, a table with you and break bread and get to know you better and share our love for the Hotspurs and just talk about life and business and kids and life and everything. It was just a lot of fun.
well, I've got to tell you, Steve, what was amazing about it was that you and I met through LinkedIn, through Rob Hanna again. We mentioned
Yeah,
Rob
wonderful
but we
Rob Han,
met through
everybody.
Rob. We've we did the first podcast together, but we've kept in touch. And when I came out to Chicago, you and I had said that we should get together, and it was just it was just lovely because it just flowed so easy. It was like we'd known each other for ages. There wasn't anything, and the fact is that the fact is that you love UK soccer, which helps a lot, and because you are unbiased by teams, so that makes it a lot easier that we don't have to have a falling out about who it is and
Right.
who we don't like.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
I
I
mean,
know
it was
Rob,
great.
Rob has an affinity for Liverpool,
Liverpool.
and I've got another, our other friend down under, he's all about the Hammers and West Ham. So it's like everybody's got their angle, and I'm just like, I just want to watch great Premier League soccer. I just want to watch
Yeah.
I'm like starstruck by a lot of these players, and it's just so much fun to watch, just to watch any team play. So
Yeah, yeah.
good
So
stuff.
it was lovely. It was nice. It was just nice and easy, and the conversation flowed, and I was so pleased that we did it.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled that you're back on the show. We're gonna have a lot of fun today. We're gonna really talk a lot of biz dev for you guys so that you're walking away with 4, 5, 6 great tips, actionable tips you can use to grow your book of business today. And Scott, we start with a quote of the show, and you've got one that I have a feeling is going to be off the beaten path. So why don't you share that with us?
Okay, so yes, yeah. So when you asked me about this one eventually popped into my head because, as I said, I love watching Gilmore Girls. So I think I must be on like my fifth or sixth run
Oh
of it. And
my
it's like
God.
seven
Wow.
seven seasons plus the limited number of shows. But in there's this great moment where Lorelai and Suki, her best friend, who's also the chef at the inn, are talking about wanting to open up their own place. And one of their colleagues, who's also being the show, comes along and he starts sort of saying to them, "It'll never work, it'll never happen." And then Suki says, "Those who have no dreams reign on those who do."
Yeah.
And that is such a wonderful, wonderful quote because I think that goes to the very heart of so much of what you and I do, which is sort of helping lawyers build themselves up so that they can put themselves in a position where they can grow their own businesses. And what tends to happen when you want to go out on your own is that people often can't help but but through their own sort of limiting beliefs tell you that these things can't be done. Oh, why would you open up your own law firm? Why would you go when you've got the security of a wage, a salary? Why would you risk it all for a pipe dream and things like that? And uh, that quote just I think sums it up beautifully, which is people have got those dreams and they're prepared. Dreams aren't enough, everyone knows that, but if you're prepared to put the work into it and you do that work, having the right people around you who are going to encourage you and
Yeah.
help you to get there, those are the people you need around you.
Well, and the other hot take I'll give on this is, are you building your career or someone else's? You're at a firm and you're doing everyone else's work. There's a guy I met yesterday who is at a really high end like personal injury firm, and it has a like I'm not going to say who it is. I'm not going to say anything about it, but like it's like it's the guy at the top that has the name, and he has the, he's on the billboard, and he's, and everything's about this guy. Meanwhile, the person that's actually making him look good and making that name real is underneath him doing all the work and all the heavy lifting, and he's getting all the credit. And again, I just think, we all have to have our own dreams and our own goals, and we've got to realize them, because you get one shot at this thing, right? So, don't, and I'm not saying that working under someone is the wrong answer. For some people, that's exactly where they should be. But I think if you have any ambition about either growing out on your own or building your own book under the umbrella of someone else, so at least you're portable and you can make decisions or influence, kind of business development's the jam.
Right. And that's it, isn't it? Is that what business development does is it gives you options. It gives you options, it gives you leverage, it gives you control over your choices and your career. Yeah. And we're not taught that. And again, you and I have talked about this, and I'm sure we will in this episode as well. We're not taught this in law school. No one teaches us about the business of law. No one teaches us about doing anything beyond doing the work that's put in front of us. And people will say it's deliberate. I don't know if it's deliberate or it's just.
I think in some ways it is, in some ways it's not. But it's going to change. It can't remain, the way that it is forever, because lawyers are just ill-equipped. But I think they're learning. They're starting to understand that there's a business side of this. They're not totally blind like I think they were maybe 10 or 20 years ago to the business side of it. But hey, Scott, we gotta cook on here, because we have a lot to cover. I want to get your a real quick Reader's Digest of your background for everybody, as a lawyer transitioning into a coach.
Yeah. So very, very quickly this time, because last time I remember I really went into it. But I used to practice law. I started off in real estate. I moved into corporate support. I then went into trust and company management, and I finished off in corporate. And I suffered burnout, and that was why I left legal practice. But where my strong suit was always in winning the work. That's what I loved. I loved getting to know people. I loved asking questions. I loved talking to them and finding out what their goals were, what was holding them back, what they wanted to achieve. And then I was just really very good at connecting the dots and helping them. It's that great phrase of, that cognitive load. I'm bearing that cognitive load from them and giving them helping them find a way forward. I love that. And so when I stopped practicing law, I got lots of offers to just do business development, and I ran with it. And over time, what I did was I realized that we're in knowledge services, and we'll talk about that. We're in knowledge services. So lawyers have got to get involved in the sales process, whether they like it or not. But it was about understanding that lawyers had these limiting beliefs, that they had this idea that their job was just to do the work that's put in front of them. And by doing something about that and helping lawyers overcome that, and then teaching them the skills, they could really transform their careers. And that's what we do now.
Yeah, really great stuff. And I want to kind of walk through sort of like the life cycle of what lawyers need to learn to be successful in business development. And I thought you and I could go back and forth on 4 or 5 subjects where we could each give a thought, a reasoning and a thought or a suggestion or approach to it. And one of the ones that I want to start off with is time management, because that in the US right now may be different than other parts of the country, although I think in the UK, pretty busy, is they're just overloaded with work. They're not following any kind of method for time management. It's like just a fire hose in the face. So I want to give a tip, but I want to hear your tip first of what you think is something that lawyers could or should do to get their time under control.
Right. Okay. So the answer I want to give to everybody is get rid of the billable hour.
Okay. Well, that's not going to happen. All right. Thanks for that.
So that's
it's going to happen. Maybe 5%, 10% at this point, or maybe doing flat fee or doing some subscription model, but
right. Right.
But
So,
I
I
get
mean,
what you're saying. Like that's a big problem with why there's so many
it's a
hours.
huge problem because it trains us to be inefficient with our time. It really does. It trains us to understand that the longer something takes us to do, the more we're going to get paid. And so doing it more quickly, more efficiently, more effectively, using technology to give us more time doesn't get us paid more. So but it also goes against what the clients want, which is speed of service. And so for me, I teach lawyers that I work with how to move away from the billable hour and onto things like value-based pricing and subscription models. I love as well. So I'm teaching a number of lawyers to get into that. So yeah, there's that. But let's actually be realistic about the fact that you want to make that move. It's not just a pricing model change, it's a business model change. And so it does take time. Now, obviously, if you're a small startup law firm, it's not as big a change as if you are a bigger law firm. But the one tip I would always say to people, and you and I will get into the sort of specifics of what do you do with that, is no matter how busy you are, you've got 30 minutes in a week. You've got 30 minutes in a week that you can put into your diary to do business development. Doesn't matter how busy you say you are, 30 minutes once a week in your diary is going to help you achieve an awful lot more. Now, you've got to know what to do with it, and we'll talk about that. 30 minutes in your diary once a week is between 2 and 2.5 hours a month, between 4 and 5 in 2 months. And you just keep doing that. Before you know it, you've got 8 to 10 hours, 8, 9, 10 hours that you didn't previously have. And all you've got to do is say, no matter what, unless it's an emergency, every single week, 30 minutes in my diary, and then I'll go from there.
Yeah. I love it. And it is difficult. And we're going to talk about how to develop behaviors and positive habits as kind of our next segue. So we'll get into that in a moment. I just want to share, big and people, I'm not trying to sell this guy's book and make him billions. He's already doing fine, but getting things done, I continue to send that to my clients. I continue to share its teachings because when you have a fire hose in the mouth, right, and you don't have a way of turning that valve off, you need to be able to manage the water coming at you. So the idea that there's an actual process or flow chart that you can follow that says, all right, this email just came into my brain or came into my inbox or both, right? What do I do with it? And you're going to interrupt your day all day just dealing with email, what I call email jail. You can't get out of it. You got 400 emails to deal with and you have no system for how you're dealing with them. So it's just dealing with them as they come in. So having a system, whether it's foldering, whether it's triage, whether it's having an assistant, multiple email addresses so that you get client emails but not others. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to skin that cat and to make good decisions. But to not read a book that's gonna change your life and help you actually manage the one thing you are getting paid on.
Yeah.
Time is literally money, and you're not good with time. Explain that.
That's,
Right? You can't.
you're so right. And emails are just the bane of every lawyer. If you
Oh
look
yeah,
on
they
on any
hate them.
social media platform,
Yeah.
people are going, oh my God, I've got like 1,000 emails today. And there's a lot that you can do with it. And you can use products and apps to help you manage it better. But it can be as basic as, and this is what I did years and years and years ago, was I actually just set times for when I would review emails. And
But
unless there was something,
that's the time management process we're talking about. You're not letting the day have you. You're having the day. You're
right,
deciding how the day is going to
right,
go, and you're filling it in with, all right, emails are going to be returned by this time, and this time, not throughout the day where
right.
you're interrupting your day. Because the other thing that David Allen talks about in getting things done is every time you interrupt yourself when you're doing important work, you lose what 15 to 30 minutes of productivity, and people just they don't even like think about that, but it's happening.
Right. Right. And people, and this is something that I get my clients to think about, is think about how long it takes you to get into the flow of doing work where you're really just so into it. And then if you look up and you happen to notice there's an email there, getting back, you deal with that email, but getting back into that space
The
where you
flow
were,
state. Yeah.
it can take 15, 20, 30 minutes to get back to where you were. So you are losing huge amounts of time. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've noticed this. you know, when you're driving a car and it says, and you've got your sat nav on and it tells you that it's going to take you, you know, 5 hours to get somewhere, and you stop at a gas station and you think, well, I've only been here for 2 minutes, but you look and actually you've lost about 10 minutes of time, because between slowing down to get to the place to stop, to get out of the car, you don't realize the time actually around all of that that's being lost.
Yeah.
You're going, but hold on a second, I was only in there for 2 minutes.
It's a
But
great
actually
analogy.
all that time around it that you have actually lost has set you back an awful lot more than the time you think you gave up to.
Yeah.
But it's so brilliant, because all of these things, Steve, they start with personal management. You know, sorting out yourself before you sort out your business is a great starting point to what you can achieve on a wider scale. But it's a great one. Just
But
start with.
time management is a learned skill, and people aren't taking the time to do it, which is sort
Yeah.
of interesting. But then you also have the 30 minutes a week that you said, or 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes a week on BD. Whatever it is that, becoming a student of BD, learning a new practice area, whatever it is that you want to do, you need to have good habits, right? And discipline. And that's any athlete or any musician, any top chef, it's going to be about habits and discipline. So how do lawyers develop better habits for, let's say, business development?
Right. So phenomenal book, Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits, sure.
I mean, just phenomenal. You know, one of these books that changed my life, because what it teaches you is that what we try to do normally is we try to go really big in changing habits, and so much is necessary to make those changes that we fall over really quite quickly. We don't, you know, certainly don't see the change that we're looking for straight away, and so we break that habit very quickly. What this teaches you is tiny habit changes, 1%. And if you can make it simple, make it effective, you know, really something that you're going to want to see the change in and reward yourself for, you're much more likely to stick at it.
Yeah.
And when you're and the more you see those tiny habit changes having an impact, the more tiny habit changes you'll
Yeah.
start to have.
Right.
That for
So,
me is
but an example of that would be, I'm talking about reading Atomic. You're talking about Atomic Habits. I'm talking about getting things done. Maybe it's not about reading the book. The book is, 300-400 pages. Maybe it's about reading a chapter a week or 2 chapters a week, right? It's that baby step of just getting going with something. Don't post every day on LinkedIn. Post once a week for a month. And now you have 4 posts over a period of time. And so I think what you're saying is small chunk, take baby steps, and build the habits small and slow over time.
okay. So what you just said there is perfection, if there is such a thing, because people think, oh, I really would love to read that book. I'd love to read Getting Things Done, but it's 400 pages. When am I going to have the time to read 400 pages? Right. The thing that I say to anybody everywhere, it's not about reading the book. Reading a chapter. Do you know how long it takes you to read a chapter? A chapter might take you 15 minutes. Okay, a chapter might take you 20 minutes. If you're saying to yourself, once a week I'm going to do that 30 minutes, and you want to use it to read a chapter of a book, do that. 15 minutes before you go to sleep at night, read that chapter.
Yeah.
That is the difference, because you can do, 10, 15 minutes to read a chapter is easy. 400 page book, bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
Just break it down.
But it's a great example of the wider issue, which is I need to lose 40 pounds, or I need to stop smoking, and you go cold turkey on, like, all these, that can happen. There are people that can do that. Okay. The majority of people can't and won't. So it's, maybe I should just stop eating at night. I'm not going to stop, I'm not going to diet, right? That doesn't work, but I'm going to stop eating it, after 7 p.m. Can I just do that for a month and see what that does for me? Because that ice cream and the popcorn and whatever I used to eat, right? So I think that's it. small steps. The other thing I would say, and this has been big for the last number of years with my clients, has been accountability buddies. Like if I had to do workouts at home, like I have an exercise thing in the basement. It has cobwebs all over it. Like it's never been used. But the same exercise equipment is at a gym that I go to 2-3 times a week consistently because I'm paying for it. They're expecting me, and I don't want to miss it. So I think with business development, find someone that has a like mind that you have, wants to do more, and you guys can meet for 30 minutes a week. Say what you're going to do on a Zoom, hit mute, go do it, come back 25 minutes later, say what you've done, and do that every single week with a buddy that you're accountable to, because it's easy to break agreements with ourselves, much more challenging when you screw someone else over.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, you will have seen this with the coaching and the training that you do, but a big part of what I do in my coaching is the accountability.
Yeah.
So much of it, you can sit there in these coaching sessions and talk all you want about what you should be doing, but the magic happens between the sessions. The real magic, the real progress doesn't happen in the coaching sessions or training sessions. It happens between them.
Yeah.
So what often happens is you become their accountability buddy. So they show up to the next session. Oh, I haven't done anything. And and you go, okay, fine, that's okay. But let's explore why you didn't get anything done. And I can be quite brutal with my clients. I don't mind if you show up once and you haven't been able to do anything. But if you start showing up more than once and you haven't done anything, that's a real problem, because you're not committed to this process of real change that you say you want.
Right.
So I'm really, like I say, brutal with clients about that. I say I'm really demanding, but you will have both seen it, because that's what this is about. So much of what we do is about holding them to account and making sure that they're making that consistent progress.
Yeah. Really critical, really critical. I have them tracking all their activity on a journal and emailing to me every Friday, so I can see their activity, who they met with, and how they're converting. And that's maybe a transition into, process, right? Like it's one thing to go and have a lot of activity. That's great. Like you have all this activity, but activity that's unmeasurable and you don't know what's working, what's not, right? Like I have someone sent out 25 emails to get meetings, and he had one meeting, right? And I was like, so let me see your email. And the email was trash. I was like, this isn't the email we had talked about. And it was just too weak. And it was like, happy to meet if you want, like whatever. And everybody just kind of blew him off. So what are you teaching? Give one good example of what you're teaching lawyers to help improve how they get meetings or close meetings, close deals.
Yeah. So we start, actually bringing it back just quickly. We start without process. I always start out the early days of the coaching. We start with no process whatsoever.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that I want to instill in them the habits of selling, of business development, right?
Okay.
And because you can teach all the process you want, teach all the system about all the systems you want. If you don't have somebody who's actually going to execute it, you got nothing. You just got great systems.
I'm gonna push back a little bit, and here's why. So part of the reason that I find lawyers struggle with developing good habits is because of fear of not knowing what to do and not knowing what to say. So I'm 100% with you that we need to have habits, but I think when they start to realize that they don't have to wing it, that there's actually something they can follow, that helps with the habits, because now they're like, I'm not afraid to go on that networking meeting, or I'm not afraid to ask better questions instead of just get soaked for information and rates or whatever that normally had happened to them.
100%. Right. So, okay. So then once we started to work through, just building the habits around it, then we start to build in the system that's going to improve how they get it done. Because, hey, listen, you and I both know that not just lawyers, human beings love a process.
Yeah.
Anything that we can follow over and over and over game. We're going to do much more effectively than, as you just pointed out, we're just kind of out on a limb doing anything. So that's kind of where we developed what we call precision selling, which is our 9-step process for selling. And it's something that you can follow over and over and over again. And every lawyer that we work with that does this can instantly say where they are in that process. So we start off by doing an exercise around your elevator pitch. Okay, building your elevator pitch, understanding who your ideal client type is, what their problems are, what their goals are, the services that you provide, the stories that you can tell to back all of this up. You create an elevator pitch out of it, 30, 45 seconds, but that's not the real point to it. The real point is that you're learning about the value that you bring to clients. When you go through this exercise, you learn about the real value that you bring to clients, and you learn to articulate that, because there are key words that go into it over and over again. So once you've got that, you then start to learn, okay, well, if I know now what my ideal client type can look like, I now know that I can do the research on them. So I've discovered what that is, and now I'm going to do the research. And once I've done the research, I'm going, and these are the places that you can do the research in. What do you think? A lot of this is about empowering their genius, enabling their genius. We all know a lot of this stuff inside. We just don't articulate it. We don't know where to start with it. So a lot of this is about empowering their genius. Once we know where to do the research, we go and do the research. And the research takes a lot of time. But then we go through, okay, well, once you've done the research, how are you going to go out and find them? And then we talk about inbound and outbound, existing clients, referrers, networking events, trade shows.
Like maybe what's the best of all the options? What are the best 3, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. And that's what we'll look at. And you have to bear in mind that, country by country, practice area by practice, it might be slightly different. So I don't know what you found are kind of like the sort of really effective ones, but for us, a combination of, well, nowadays social media is very big, right? But that can be very slow. So we often supplement it by, with networking events and shows, but outbound. So in the UK, you to a limited extent can send cold email.
That's not happening in the US, and
it's really limited in the US, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's not. You can't directly go out and start cold calling, companies and stuff like that. But I think, look, I know that there's a way through doing that. I guess my take would be, if you have the ability to leverage your friends, your past, people you worked with, if you're able to leverage your clients to get introductions, right? If you're able to cross market and say, hey, look, I help you with this. I'm going to ask you some questions, identify that you've got 3 or 4 other things that you have risk at your company, and I've got the people and the team to help you with that and bring that in, right? Like there's all this, what I call low-hanging fruit that
100%.
that is going to be better than, stranger danger, going out and just talking to strangers and targeting. The other thing is with LinkedIn, that's the keys to the kingdom, Scott, right? So like if I want to get into a company, I can pull up all the employees on LinkedIn. I can pull up who the GCs are, the CEOs are, whatever those companies, and who knows them that I know, and try to use that as an inside connection, right? So I like the idea of that we can in the US like cold solicit, but there are what I would consider, again, easier ways.
Well, think of it this way. Referrals will always be
Right.
your
Always
lowest
be the
hanging
best.
fruit, right? Because just take it from clients. Something that I remember, there's recent statistics. Over 90% of clients would be absolutely happy to make a referral, and yet only 8% of us will ask for a referral. That's mad,
Yeah.
right? Then, as you say, you've got first connections on LinkedIn that will be connected to the people that you want to reach out to, and they would be happy to at least make that connection, but we won't ask. All of the, and you can go from there. The people that who would make referrals, not necessarily to specific people, but people who are in that space that you want to be in, and and you don't ask for it. Or when you ask for referrals, you're so vague about who it is that you
But
want to
just
ask.
we've got 30 seconds and then we got to wrap up. But I want to hear what you're teaching your clients and how to ask for referrals, because I think that's the missing piece. Like they want to, they just don't feel comfortable doing it because they don't have a process or language. Is there
Right,
a key line that you give that you'd say this is the way to do it so it's not salesy?
right. So firstly, just okay, so really quickly, you don't have to follow a template because it's personal to you. It has to feel comfortable to you. Best time to do it is firstly at the end of a transaction that's gone well. If it's a client, at the
Sure.
end of the transaction that's gone well, hey, really pleased that you're happy with how things have gone. Listen, if you know anybody who can, who needs our help the way that you did, or that we can help get better results, would love it if you would, if you would just let them know that we're here to help, something like that. Same with same with intermediaries. If you're having those conversations, say to them, listen, would love it if you would, if you know people in these spaces, if you could just let them know that we're helping businesses like them. We've got to overcome, it's all in our heads, we've got to overcome that. And then actually the process of asking, really simple.
Yeah. Get rid of that head trash. Good way to think about it. And just think about that there's language that you can craft that's very straightforward and simple that'll allow you to get them to say, "Yeah, I can't believe you have waited this long to ask me," or "Absolutely, who are you thinking about? Who would you like to meet?" And coach them through those introductions and who you would like to meet, other GCs they know, people that used to work under them that went off to be head GCs at other companies. There's all kinds of things that you can do. But we have to wrap up on that, Scott. Always such a pleasure. Let's wrap up with our game-changing podcast. This is yours. It's called Outbound Squad, and I'm assuming this is about outbound marketing, business development.
Yeah, so it's outbound sales. So but I love it because it gives you ideas for emails to send and phone calls to make. You don't have to think about it in terms of, oh, it's cold calling. It gives you great ideas about things you can say to the people that you already know.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, check that out, everybody. And as we wrap up, want to thank our sponsors, of course, Law Her, which is a phenomenal podcast shining a light on the bright and boldest women in the legal industry, on Rankings.io, top marketing company in the US, working with law firms on their marketing, business websites, SEO, pay per click, you name it, they do it. And of course, if you are a managing partner or work for a managing partner that would like to be in a peer advisory group of other successful rainmakers and managing partners, check out my Rainmaker Roundtable on Fretzin.com. And Scott, if people want to get in touch with you, they want to learn more, they want to, stay involved with you, what's the best digits?
Right. So you can contact me online, scott.simmons@legalbalance.co.uk. You will always find me all day, every single day, 7 days a week, much to my wife's annoyance, on LinkedIn. So you'll always find me there. You can always send me a DM. If you want to learn a good process for how to get on that journey to becoming a rainmaker, we've got our digital education course, the BD Breakthrough Blueprint. You can find that at www.legalbalanceinstitute.com. But please reach out to me. Always love to have a chat.
Yeah. And that's going to all be on the on in the show notes, everybody, so you can check that out. And Scott, listen, man, there's a lot of people I have on the show, and I'm a big fan of all of them, but you and I have definitely connected at another level, and I just appreciate you. I appreciate, we got to visit in Chicago, and I'm hoping that you'll come back on the show in 2025 and guest again. We've got more BD to cover. 30 minutes is not even close to what we could be sharing if we get another 30 minutes in a few months or 2025. Okay.
Whenever you want me, I'm there.
All right. All right, my friend. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for spending some time on the Be That Lawyer podcast with Fretzin. And again, helping you to be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. Take care, everybody. Be safe, be well. Talk again soon.